And for that little something extra, I'll show you that scones and biscuits aren't just for the sweeter side of things by making savory spiral scones. Let's start with the fundamentals, the basic buttermilk biscuits. They're easy to make. You make them by hand, and it starts with the dry ingredients, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. The main difference between a biscuit and a scone is the country of origin. Biscuits are typically known as being North American and scones as British. But they also have a slight different texture to them. Biscuits tend to be a little lighter and cakier in texture. It only calls for a tablespoon of sugar. Something that biscuits and scones do share in common is lots of leavening, baking powder and baking soda to let them fluff up. This particular recipe calls for a full tablespoon of baking powder. And in addition to that, half a teaspoon of baking soda. You often see baking powder and baking soda together in recipes, particularly in scones and biscuits. The baking soda works first and fastest to fluff up your biscuits, then the baking powder kicks in to keep them nice and fluffy as they bake. A little bit of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon, and that's sifted all together. And now for the wet ingredients. First, 1.25 cups of buttermilk. Buttermilk is low in fat and has an acidic component to it. And that's why buttermilk in baking isn't just an ingredient, it's a tool, because that acidity within it activates the baking powder and baking soda, letting those biscuits bake up nice and fluffy. I'll measure 1/4 cup of vegetable oil because it's neutral in taste. And the last thing to add, just a single egg. I'll just break the egg into the mixture and simply pour it into the dry ingredients. A quick stir just to combine everything. Immediately you can see the buttermilk go to work, activating the baking soda and baking powder. I have 2 baking trays lined with parchment, and you can use 2 spoons, but I like the precision of an ice cream spoon. And just scoop those biscuits, leaving a good amount of space between them. A biscuit is best enjoyed fresh out of the oven. But as you can see, the recipe is so simple, you can whip it up in a snap. All right, these are ready for the oven. Another characteristic you'll find that scones and biscuits share is that they're baked at a high temperature. I've preheated the oven to 400 degrees, and these take about 15 minutes. They'll turn a nice golden brown on the bottom and just be barely browned on top. Oh, look how these puffed up. And the fragrance from buttermilk biscuits is amazing. It does smell like fresh bread right from the oven. Look at that beautiful textbook cakey texture. And of course, while they're warm, that's how you want to serve them. A little slathering of butter. So now that we've got the fundamentals covered with a good biscuit recipe, let's advance the technique and make classic lemon cranberry scones with a lemon glaze on top.
This May, Jonathan Bond's gourmet training. It's better to travel than to